So thank you so much for hosting me. As your professor said, my name is Lynn Chandler, and I work at a college called Southern New Hampshire University. We have 187,000 students who attend our school. And on our campus, which is kind of like UCJC, we have 3,200 students. I have been a professor of education, and I've helped to teach people who want to be teachers. And last semester, I taught a course with Dr. Moreno and from UCJC, and my students were in America, and her students were here at UCJC, and we used design thinking. And because of that, Dr. Moreno asked me if I would come and do a session with you. So I'm very sorry that it has to all be in English. I took many years of French and not Spanish. I'm very sorry. But we're going to do an interactive session to help you think about improving classrooms. And so it does apply to math in terms of the mathematical thinking you're doing. But today I want you to think about your experience as students at UCJC, and that's what we're going to work on. So we're gonna hopefully get started. So the very first thing I would like you to do is to reflect on one class you've taken recently. It could be the class you did last hour. It could be a biology class, but think about one of your most recent classes. And if you can read this, I want you to think about all of the activities that you did in class that day. And I'm gonna ask you to try and graph that in a second with as much detail as possible. So it might say first, the teacher welcomed the students. Second, the teacher did a lecture. Third, the teacher had us talk in small groups, and you can do it in Spanish, do it in whatever language is comfortable for you. And I'll show you a graphic of that. And so we're gonna start with that. So again, I would like you to think of one class, and we're going to use a journey map. This is a tool we use in design thinking. So what happened first, next, and last in the class. And so hopefully it will look something like this. And so you can use the paper that I gave you if you want to flip it over to get a blank piece of paper. I'd like you to draw a line going horizontal and a line going vertically with a positive sign and a negative sign. And please feel free to ask questions, or if, I don't know how comfortable you feel translating, but if you feel okay, if anybody wants to be my translator. Okay, so, but you're going to take just one day in one class, okay? And all of the things that you did from beginning to end. And for you as a student, if it brought you joy, if you felt comfortable, if you thought it was entertaining or engaging, it's going to be above the line, a positive. And if you did not like it, if it was hard, confusing, not explained well, then you're going to put it below. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so we'll give you 5 minutes or so. Again, one class, any of your subjects. Okay. Do the directions make sense? Okay. So you're going to basically draw that graph. Okay. May I hit you up for more translating if I need it, since you got, thank you. Does this make sense? Okay? Okay. And does it make sense? Make sense? Okay, thank you. And do you feel okay? Okay, great, thank you. Oh, perfecto. What class? What subject was this? Biology? Okay. Oh, psychology. My apologies. Great. And if you would either use words or pictures to describe the different actions, okay? So like we took an exam, right? Maybe you felt really good about the exam. You can either write it in words or draw some pictures. Do you need help? What's that?
I don't understand.
Okay, so can you pick one class that, like maybe the last class or even the last hour that you just had? Okay, and tell me what activities you did in that 1 hour, and if they were good, if they brought you joy, if they were easy, it goes above the line, and if they were bad, hard, confusing, below. Is that okay? Okay. Did you all do the same class?
Yes.
What class is it?
Atención temprana y
Oh. Okay. For education?
Yes.
Students, see, yes. Oh, yes, great. Are they okay to mix up, like to put in different groups, different pairs?
Yeah.
Is that, that's no problem?
Whatever
Okay,
you want.
okay. And I'll give you just 1 or 2, like 2 more minutes if you need to add any pictures or any details, because you're going to have to explain your graph to someone else in the class. Okay? And friends, I'm now going to ask you to do the following, if you would. Would you please stand up? You can leave your computers and everything, but please stand up. Just stand up. And you can push in your chairs. All right. And I'm going to ask you to do a strategy that I call the lineup. And so we are going to say from, if this is Madrid, okay, how far away were you born? So if you were born right by UCJC, like 1 mile away, here, okay? And if you were born in another country, here. So one straight line, figure out in order about how far away you were born from Madrid. Does that make sense? And then you're just gonna stand in one line. Take your notebook with you, okay? Does that need translation? So.
¿Lo habéis entendido? Sí.
Sí. Okay. Okay. Excellent. And can you slide a little? Thank you. Okay. So you were born at UCJC? Right here? Perfect. Okay. Yes. So I am using this as just a quick way to make new teams, okay? So I'm going to ask the two of you to be partners, the two of you to be partners, the two of you, the two of you, the two of you, and then the two of you to be partners. And so if you want to sit at other desks so that you don't have to move your stuff, that's fine. But I want you to explain your map to your partner, and you're going to have a full 5 minutes to do that. So really talk about what worked well. You all want to be educators, right? Yes? So think about what worked really well for you, what was really hard and confusing. Take time to really break apart that class to your partner. Does that make sense? And when 5 minutes is up, I'll have you switch, and then the other partner goes. So 10 total minutes, okay? So sit anywhere you would like with your partner and describe your map. Set timer 5 minutes. Can you tell me what happened in this class?
We start with a social circle.
Okay, yeah.
And then we start with the lessons.
Like lecture or written? Like what were you doing as a student?
Watching the projector.
Okay.
The teachers were trying to explain the lessons in the projector.
And does that work for you as a learner? Do you like that style as a learner? Okay, so it should be low, right? Below? Yes? Oh, see, okay. Okay, great. Okay. How did it end? Did it go that way the whole time? The whole time?
With the lessons?
Like one activity? Like in one day? Did you do one thing the whole time? Okay, okay. And how about for you?
Well, we start with the explanation.
Yeah.
It was a little bit boring. Then we get an activity.
Okay.
And we have to search on the internet for some information.
Okay.
Then we have another explanation, but it was was much more interesting.
Okay.
For last, we did a role play.
So that was a pretty good class for you. You had lots of energy for it. Good. Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful. Wonderful. Is this more positive? Good class? More good than bad? Or no? Where? Oh, I see lines there. I see. Okay, okay. And what class did you say this was? Yes, okay, okay. And are most of the days like this? Is this a typical day? See, okay, okay, okay. And you were in the same class together, yes? Okay. Same professor? Yes, okay, okay. So friends, if you have finished, look at the questions that I've put on the board to keep the conversation going for a couple more minutes. So ask why a particular part was boring, or how did the teacher present to that material, or what did you like about talking to a partner, right? So you really want to understand the experience of your partner, okay? The goal is for you to put your partner's shoes on and think about how they experienced the class, not how you did, okay? So you have a couple more minutes. Oh, sure. Yes. No, you can. Spanish is fine. Yeah, yeah. No, English is my problem. Speak however you want. Yes, sure. Yes.
Explain in front of the class in the center, or we can do it in
The two of you, no, just together, just the two of you.
No,
Yeah.
we have to explain there, or we can stay here.
No, just here.
Okay.
No big presentation. Yeah, no. Okay, if the second person hasn't started yet, second person should be going now, okay? Did both go? Did you both go? Okay. Did you both go? Okay. And did both of you go? Did you both have a chance to talk about your map? Yes, okay, thank you. Is it okay to just check in? Did you both have a chance, or are you still going? Did you both talk?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you, okay. Okay, friends, you're going to partner with this person again later, but for right now, you thank your partner, and you can go back to your seat and be near your computer again if you're not near your computer, okay? Thank your partner, and then you can go back to your seats. And you're going to need this information in a little bit, okay? So keep it nearby. So one of the things, sorry friends, one of the things that we're going to do today, and I'm sorry I talk fast so I have to remind myself to slow down. I want you to think about that class more deeply, your partner's class, the one you just heard about. And we're going to try to design a better, improved version of that class. So to do that, I'm going to share with you a couple of different skills that we can think about. And so if you think about right now, you have like the base of a soup. And I'm going to give you some vegetables, and you're going to throw those in a minute. And then you'll throw in some meat. So I'm going to give you different things to add to that class. So the first one we're going to do is talk about reflection. So how many of you use a lot of reflection in your classes? Do your teachers have you reflect a lot? Okay, okay. Perfect, okay. So in this work, I don't know if you know this, I come from America. Americans score the highest in being the most confident. Not necessarily the smartest, not the highest in math or science, but the most confident about how well they're doing, right? And so, at least in America, but this is kind of true internationally, students come to a class at the first day of class feeling pretty confident. For example, I took 4 years of French, and I felt very confident the first time that I went to Montreal that my French would be perfect, right? And I'm like, yes, I know French, I took it for 4 years, right? And then I get to a restaurant and I don't have the words. I don't know if this happens to you in your second languages or third languages, right? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is way harder than I thought, and you get frustrated. My husband and my son both took Spanish, and they're both here with me, and they're here right now because they thought they knew a lot of Spanish, and then they sit like staring at the waiters and waitresses when they can't answer the questions. But if you practice, you can improve. And I want you to think about your learners in the class. They could be anywhere in this phase. So they might say, I know this all, this class was easy, I feel very confident, right? Or they might say, this is really hard, I don't know if I can stay in this class, right? It's very, very difficult. And so one of the ways that you can get a better sense of where your students are is if you use lots of reflection in your classes. So reflection is really searching for connections to make sure that your students understand. So there's just a quick quotation here that says, the art of directing and supporting reflection is part of changing a brain. It is the art of leading a student toward comprehension. I used to be a school teacher. I taught elementary school and middle school. So I taught like 9-year-olds to 12-year-olds in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I did not realize how important reflection was when I first started teaching. So I would give lots and lots of content, but I didn't have my students spend a lot of time making connections. And in the past 25 years that I've been teaching, this is the biggest thing that I wish I can impart to you, that it is very important for your students to have opportunities to reflect. So I don't know if you want to take notes on this, but just in terms of this, to me, it's very useful when you're thinking about reflection. There's 4 different things you should think about when you want your students to reflect. The first one is the prompt. The second one is what medium are you going to use? The third is the degree of sharing. And the fourth is timing. And don't worry, if I change the slide, those 4 words are not going to change. You'll see them on the next couple of slides if you don't get them all written down. So as teachers, we want to think about those 4 different things every time we ask our students to reflect. Okay? So for the prompt, right, the first one, the prompt, that's the question or the provocation that learners are going to reflect on. And there can be many different ways that you get this information. It may just be about content. It may be about how they're feeling, how confident they feel, what questions they might have. I ask my students before they leave every single day, what did they learn and what didn't they learn? What were they struggling with? This is an example, although you can't see it very well, of a strategy I use with sticky notes. And you're going to do this at the end of the class, right? But I give every student 2 sticky notes. I did it virtually here. The first one says, I used to think, and you talk about what you used to think, and then now I think, right? And so at the end of a class, did this class actually change your thinking, right? And so that's what we use, that's one way that I use as a reflection with my students. Some other examples, reflect on what you learned today, or an activity-specific prompt, such as brainstorming with a team. You take time to read the reflections. The teacher should be reading them. They are a form of formative assessment. That means you're maybe not using them for a grade, but you are using them to change your teaching. Is this stuff you feel like you've done a lot of? Have you talked a lot about reflection as teachers? No? Okay. Maybe not this way, right? So, right, and so you are using these reflections as a tool. So just to give you an example, a good question will give you a good response. So if I just say to you, think back on one of the interviews you did for homework and write a reflection on that interview. Students will give you 2 or 3 sentences because you gave a very small prompt, unless you say, I want a page, right? Or I want 2 pages, right? But if you use more of a framework, and I'm going to show you a framework, it says, think about a moment you struggled during this project and reflect on it. Use the reflection framework you picked up at the end of class to guide your reflection. It can also be found in the files section, right? So then I'm going to show you, I give my students this handout. It says what, so what, and now what. So instead of just asking a quick question, they have to really think about what happened in class, why does it matter, and then what are they going to do with that information next. I'm also going to, if you want any of this, I'm going to give you the slide deck, so you can have this if you want it, okay? And so my students now will pick one of those bullets under, one of those questions under to answer. They don't have to do all of it, right? So there's a little bit of choice in what they answer, but they always have to do one what, one so what, and one now what when they're doing reflection work. So this is before the framework. This was the, I know you can't read it, but just to show you the amount, this was how much the student wrote with the first prompt. This is how much the student wrote with the second prompt, and it tells you a lot more understanding, not just a couple of words to make your teachers happy, right? There's some meaning there. Okay, so that means the prompt matters. Everybody okay with that? All right. So second is the medium, and that means how are you going to have students respond? So you might have them write in their notebook, you might have them write in the learning management systems that you use, if it's Canvas or Brightspace or any of those. You might have them write on Google Docs. You might have them do a poll. You could have them even reflect in a Zoom chat, or you can have them reflect verbally. The trick with verbally is that you don't always hear what everybody has to say, right? All those other ways you have some evidence of what your students had to say, right? So the second thing is, where are they going to reflect? Yes? Okay. So you don't have to do this, but you can use polls, right? Menti, if you've ever seen the program Menti, is a way that you can do polls online from your cell phone, so your students can pull out their cell phones and do all their polls on there. This is a Google slide that I took, and I don't think you use Google as much in Spain as we do in America. We use it all the time. But Google Jamboard is like a whiteboard, and we have our students reflect right on here with sticky notes. So that's what we use to reflect online. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, and then the third piece, if we go back here, is how widely are we going to share? So are the students reflecting on something that's really private, right? So what you just did now, I had you reflect with one other person, right? But I'm not having you reflect with the whole class. Maybe you said something wasn't very entertaining, or it was boring, right? I'm not trying to get you to hurt professors' feelings, right? So I have to think about how widely do I share it? And there are some times where you might reflect on your own and it's private. There are some times you might reflect and only the teacher sees it. There are some times where it's wonderful for the whole class to experience, to read what everybody else had to say, right? And I took a class, on a virtual class online. It's from Stanford. And the professor pretended like the computer froze, and she just wanted to see what happened. So her face looked frozen, but she was actually still there, and you couldn't tell. She wanted to see what the students started to do, right? And how they started to mess around at first, right? And then how after some time, after 10 minutes, the students were like, oh, we better start discussing the content. And so without a teacher, they all started having conversations. So then when we went to reflect, everybody had a slide, and everybody had to write their reflection. And I was sitting in the room, and I experienced one way, right? And I said, oh, We were messing around for a little while, we were joking around, and then finally we got back on track. But a woman of color had a very different experience. She said, I tried to get everybody back on track and no one listened to me. And it wasn't until the white male got up and said, hey, I think we should do this, that the team decided to change. And that moment was traumatizing to her. And we would never have known had she not reflected and allowed everybody to share. Does that make sense? Okay. And the very last piece, I'm almost done with my mini lecture here. These are my students in America today, or one of my English classes right now. I make them get up and share all the time, even during COVID. The last piece is timing. So you have to ask yourself, when do you want to add reflection? So usually you want to think about not just the end of class, right? So you might do something really quick on the way out, tell me what was easy, tell me what was hard, right? But you want to think about, if there's a lecture, where can you stop and have students actually reflect for a minute? Because you don't want to talk for too long, right? And lose your students, which I can see, I'm just getting there, right? I'm just talking for too long. Right? So the last piece is, when am I going to have students reflect? Does that make sense? Okay. So this morning you came in and you actually did a kind of reflection for me. The journey map, the learning map, is a kind of reflection. I had you do the learning journey map. I had you do it on a piece of paper. I had you share it with your peers, and I came around, so I looked at it, and we did it just during the session, synchronously. Does that make sense? So I made 4 decisions about that one activity, okay? So now I'm going to be asking you to go back to that class that you were just thinking about, okay? And I want you to think about, where could the professor have added in reflection? So you can still talk to the people that you're sitting next to. You don't have to be with your partner yet, okay? Oh, actually, maybe you should. Maybe that would be easier. You're going to hate me because I'm going to make you move again, okay? But go back to your partner, okay? And I'm going to ask you to talk about 2 or 3 places where you could add reflection into that lesson to make the lesson stronger. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question or have it translated? Okay, so please go back to your partner. And where? So where on the map could you add reflection? Thank you. The moving around is good for you. So just draw on the map where you think reflection would be important. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry? Sure. So think about reflection, and where could you add reflection? Where would be a good time in this lesson where students could stop and reflect and think about what they're learning? Yeah, so like writing a paper or talking to a friend. Where is a good moment for the teacher to say, okay, take a minute to think about what we just talked about? Does that help? Okay.
The role play.
Thank you. Do you understand where to add reflection? Great. Awesome. Okay, and did you think about what kind? Would you have them talk or would you have them write? Yeah? Okay. Were you able to add some moments to reflect in there? Okay. And will students write or talk? How would you have them reflect? Okay. Okay. And both 2 times or 1 time or 2 times? Okay. Okay. Okay, friends. This may sound tricky, so I just want to make sure everyone's okay with this. So now you and your partner are going to pick one of the things one of the classes. So even though you each may have described 2 different classes, pick one where you think there's the most room to improve it, okay? So you're going to pick one of them. And then for each of the activities that the teacher did, choose one color of your sticky notes. And you're going to say each activity. So just like if first you did the social circle, right? Draw the social circle on one, and then if you did a lecture, draw or write lecture on another. So each activity is on one sticky note for one of your lessons. I feel like that's a lot of directions. I want to make sure that's okay. Is it okay? Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Oh, thanks. Okay, so thank you so much for this. Can I give an example? So let's say if we did it right now with how much I've done in class so far, which is just a poquito, right? First, I welcomed you, right? Then I did the journey map. Then I had you partner with another student. And then I did a lecture on reflection. So, yes, one per sticky note, right? So I've done 4 things so far. I welcomed you, I had you write your journey maps, I had you share them with a partner, and then I lectured on reflection, right? So I've done 4 things, but you think about one of your maps and you write each big activity on one sticky note.
So we write, we don't draw.
You write or draw, either's fine. Yes. So one map. So either this one or this one. Yeah, so you pick the same class. So one sticky note for each thing on the map. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. I promise this will come together soon. Vale. Perfecto. Okay. No, Spanish is okay. No, trust me, you're doing amazing. So, okay, so with the other color notes, I now want you to put where you would have reflected, right, and how you would have students do it. So, if I say, oh, I did this journey map, oh, I had you line up too, right? I could say, I had you line up, and I missed an opportunity because I didn't ask. So for example, forgive me for not knowing names yet, but may I ask you your name over here? I'm sorry. May I ask your name? Okay, and so where were you born? In India, right? And so you stood at the furthest end of the line. I missed a really good opportunity, right, to have students reflect on where they were from, right? I made a joke about being born at UCJC, but there was an opportunity for students to share and reflect, right? So I'm going to say on this, students reflect on where they were from. So this is a new reflection, a new spot in my map. And so now I move my sticky notes to add this reflection, right? Does that make sense? So you take your other color, you're now improving the original lesson, the new addition, okay? So does it make sense? Is there a moment where we could add students talking or students writing, and then you stick it in between? Yes? Okay. Pilar, I'm sorry. I just want to check. Do you give them another break, or are they good for the 2 hours?
I think it will be possible to.
Okay. Like 10 minutes? 10 minutes? Okay. 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 Okay, friends, I'm going to go for 10 more minutes and then give you a small break, okay? So 10 more minutes, okay, before break. All right. So the second part, so now we're going to forget about reflection for a minute, okay? So we did reflection. We put it in our lesson, right? We've added it in. Now I want to talk about exploration and explanation, okay? To explore or to explain, yes? Okay? And so one of the things, so my question is, what happens when you explore before you explain? And I'm seeing my graph is gone. Oh, my picture. I have this great picture that's not there. Okay, so when you actually have students try something first without explaining, it helps them to access their prior knowledge. They start thinking about connections that they can make. They sometimes start looking at data in a way that they wouldn't have normally. They start asking more questions, right? So instead of me just doing a lecture and then say, okay, now let's do the lab, I'm telling you it's better if you can do the lab first and then explain later. And I'm actually trying to do that with you, right? So it leads teachers to connect more complex knowledge with student-constructed knowledge. Okay, so students will be more curious, and they'll have a mental model that they can reflect on when they want to apply. So I'll say, oh, remember when we did the experiment and this happened, right? So they're able to think about the mental model to be able to explore. So this doesn't work for all subjects, obviously. You're teaching mathematics, right? You don't always just give students a bunch of word problems and say, have at it. But there are moments where you have them play and explore before they actually solve problems, right? So the next part that I'm going to ask you to do, okay, and then we'll take a break, but I'm going to ask you to look at all of the activities that you wrote on the yellow. Was the teacher exploring? Were students exploring? So were you trying stuff? Or was the teacher explaining? So like a lecture. And so on each of the yellow stickers, now please label them explore or explain. So I would just say, when I welcomed, I was explaining. And when I did the journey map, I had you explore. Okay? So would you please label teachers explaining or students are exploring for each one? So may I ask if you're ready to go, if you've labeled them? I'd love to hear out loud. Explain, explore, explain. What's the sequence that they're in right now? Is any team ready to tell me that? Thank you, please.
In first place, we explain, then we explore, then we listen,
Okay.
fulfill, and the last is explore.
So when you say listen, is the teacher explaining something or the students are explaining? Okay, so I would still call that explain, but that's wonderful. Any other teams ready? What did you have? Go ahead. Great, so you started with a lot of exploring. Wonderful, okay, good. So one of the things that I wanted to ask now is if you're willing to play around with the order. So if you had a lot of exploring first, that's good. You don't have to really change it. But like you had a lot of explaining first, right? So how might you start moving these activities around so that students explore first and get explanation second, okay? So just now you're playing with the order of them, okay? Okay, friends, are you ready for 45 more minutes? Are you okay? Can we, 40 minutes? Okay, great. Okay. All right, so now what you did was you played with the order in terms of explaining and exploring, right? And you've added reflections, right? So remember I said it was like a soup, and you had the base lesson. Now you threw in some reflection. You played with the order a little bit, okay? Bless you. Okay. Pilar, is there audio in here? Is there audio if I play? Or, you know, I wonder if I should skip this part.
I think.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay, let's see. I need to copy this and then. up top. But it's not, it's, do you mind? Do you mind? It's not like mine. Oops, sorry. So the last thing that we're going to do is think about ways that you could add meaningful options to the class. So does every student have to do the same assignment at the same time? Okay, and so do you know, have you ever heard of CrossFit exercise? Do you know CrossFit? Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna play, hopefully, a 7-minute podcast about a woman who is a teacher who talks about the lessons she learns in CrossFit that impact the classroom. So the last piece of this, the last part of the soup, right, is that I'm going to be asking you to think about ways where students could be doing different things at the same time in that class. Does that make sense? Okay, and so if we can play this, we'll see. No. Okay. Could I, well, may I try, can we try typing it or no?
No, it's not allowed to copy
Okay,
this link.
okay.
Try to. Don't worry.
Okay,
No panic.
no worries, no worries.
No, don't worry.
I can just talk about it instead, that's okay. As you, keep going, yeah, oh. So, yeah, it should be here, yeah, okay, yep.
Sí, pero I tried to. But
Yeah, I could try from there, because there's more than one, but is it okay if I look? I'll see if I can find it that way for us. It has CrossFit in the title. It's podcast. But,
this here.
yeah, maybe, yeah. There we go. Yeah. There you go. Yes, this one.
This?
Yeah. But we're only, well, I'm going to move it if that's okay. We're going to skip the first 2 minutes and we're only going to listen to 7 minutes of it. There you go.
This is Jennifer Gonzalez welcoming you to
Yes,
episode
thank you.
29 of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast.
Okay.
In this episode, I'm going to share with you 4 things I've learned about teaching from doing CrossFit. It's going to be that interested in, I don't know, me talking about exercise, and certainly not this specific type called CrossFit, but just I'm going to explain some stuff, and I'm going to mostly be talking about how we can use this stuff for the classroom. So before I get started, 2 things. Number 1, if you are a regular listener and you've been enjoying the show and you haven't yet left a review on iTunes, I'm just going to ask that you go on over to iTunes and just leave me a quick review. The number of reviews that a podcast gets, it helps it. Hacking Education, 10 quick fixes for every which you can also get the
Commercials.
book for free if you sign up for that. So that's a really great offer, and so you may want to just go check that out. Okay, so
Okay, so if you would listen, right, and think about these ideas, and I'll just tell you, the next thing you're going to do is think about those sticky notes and where you can give multiple things for students to do. Does that make sense? So students doing different activities at the same time. Okay.
this past summer, my husband asked me to go to a CrossFit gym with him. He was looking for something different. He wanted something that would motivate him to exercise more. And he had heard about CrossFit, and he thought it sounded like a good idea. So he asked if I would go to him to this newbie night, and I did not want to do it. I had other things to do, but I just thought, well, fine, I'll just go with him, and it'll just be a one-time thing. So the night that we went, we pulled up to the gym, which they actually call it a box in CrossFit, and I just became more skeptical as we pulled up. It just looked kind of like a garage, basically. It's very plain. I had a black rubber floor. You could smell the rubber floor. And even when I looked around, it didn't even look like a gym. There were like, you know, ropes and things hanging from the wall. There were sort of like bars that were bolted to the wall. And like there were a few people working out, but for the most part, everybody was just sort of hanging around, and everybody was drinking coffee. And I just thought, this doesn't even feel like a place to work out. So I just thought, fine, I will just politely tolerate whatever we do tonight, and then that's it. I did not think it was ever going to be a place I would call home. So fast forward 3 months, and I am completely in love with this place. I have canceled my other gym membership, and I am thrilled by how strong I feel. I'm more motivated to exercise than I ever have been. I am just definitely a huge, huge fan of this exercise craze, I guess people call it, called CrossFit. And here's the irony. I kind of suck at it. If you compare what I can do to what the more experienced people can do in CrossFit, in the gym that we go to, there is no contest. I am absolutely in the lower tier of students. I use lighter weights, I do fewer reps, I need more breaks, and I take longer to do just about everything. And here's what's great about that. For the first time, I understand what it feels like to be a struggling student. At any other time in my life, I've always been a good student. I knew how to do school, I knew how to get good grades, and now I'm on the low end of things. But because of the way CrossFit is structured, I keep trying, and I have no plans to stop. I am just super motivated to keep going. So, because I look at things all the time through the lens of education, I have noticed quite a few things about the way they do CrossFit that have direct connections to teaching. And mostly, I'm noticing them because I'm at the bottom of the class. So what I'm going to do is talk about 4 things that I've learned about teaching that I think we can actually apply in the classroom. I'm going to talk about the way they do things at CrossFit, and then the way I think we can take those same approaches and bring them into the classroom. So, number 1 is student choice plus well-crafted options equals powerful differentiation. Every time I show up in the gym, I look to a huge blackboard for the workout of the day. They call this in CrossFit the WOD, workout of the day, the WOD. The WOD is a list of whatever exercises we're going to do that day, how many reps we're going to do, for how long, and so on. On most days, the WOD is not by itself, though. Beside it, there's usually some extra information with the title JV, and this is a description of the modifications we can make to our workouts if the prescribed workout is too difficult. And in most every case, it is way too hard for me. Usually, these modifications involve scaling down the weight we use or reducing the number of reps we have to do. And if the JV version is too hard, they often offer a frosh version that is scaled down even further. So suppose the WOD includes an overhead press with a barbell. This is just lifting a bar over your head. The prescribed weight for women might be 90 pounds for doing this. The scaled weight might be 70 pounds. But when I first tried it, all I could lift for any length of time, I could do a little bit heavier weights once or twice, but if we had to do multiple presses, the most I could do was the 25-pound barbell by itself with no weights on it. And if you actually go to this post, if you go to cultofpedagogy.com/pod and click on episode 29, you will see the article that I wrote for this, and you will see a picture of me with that barbell over my head looking like I am totally straining. Okay, so here's the most important thing about these modifications. We are never assigned these modifications. Modifying our workout is our decision every time. So on some days, I will look at the WOD and I will know for sure that I need to make a lot of modifications. On other days, I look at the WOD and think, I'm gonna go for it today. Sometimes I get partway through and think, never mind, I'm not gonna do it. But other times I nearly get there, and those days are golden. Also, no one ever makes you feel crappy about scaling down. People were cheering me on with those little barbell presses. It didn't feel condescending either, just supportive. I knew they had all been beginners once too. So here's the classroom application for this. So this principle that I'm taking from CrossFit is student choice plus well-crafted options equals powerful differentiation, okay? Whenever possible as a teacher, we should tier our assignments, T-I-E-R. And if you have never heard of a tiered assignment, here's what it is. It's basically kind of similar to this WOD with modifications. You offer students an assignment, and then you offer other levels of that same assignment. You could do one that's sort of an advanced version of it, or you could do, you could do one that is sort of a lighter version of it, and you can label these levels whatever you want. And here's the key though, let your students choose which tier to work on. I think a lot of teachers who do tiered assignments, they assign students to specific tiers and say, you're gonna work on this level and you're gonna work on this level. And I'm sure that has got a lot of practicality to it. And, you know, I'd be interested to hear from people who use tiered assignments in different ways. But at the gym, what really works for me is the fact that I get to decide for myself which one I want to try. And that's really motivating. It's nice to know that if I want to scale down on my weights or my reps, I can do that. And it's not going to be looked upon as, you know, a weak option. It's something that is looked upon as a smart move because I'm listening to my body and I know what I can handle and I don't want to injure myself. But there's always this sort of light pressure to try harder. If I can do a certain level easily enough, then my coaches are going to say to me, see if you can push it a little bit harder now. See if you can just attempt the next level, even if you can't do all of it. See if you can add just a teeny bit more weight. And so that to me is really sort of magical because I am being allowed to work on my own level with no shame, but there is always the suggestion that I might want to push just a little bit harder. So I think that we could be doing more of this in our classrooms. I think we could be setting the goal where it is, but then also creating some other options that still get at those same skills, but maybe someone is not ready. Maybe a student is not quite ready to get to that toughest level, and you can offer some ways that they can scale down on it. And I think having that autonomy to self-select, I think that's a skill that students can carry into so many other areas of their lives. Instead of always just doing it the way the teacher told them to, giving them the option to scale down and then move a level if they feel it's getting to be too easy, or move down a level if it's too hard. I don't know, as a student of fitness, it feels really good to have that control over the system. And I am always looking to that higher goal. I'm definitely not complacent where I am. I am always looking to that higher goal and looking forward to being able to get to it. So that's the first one.
Okay, and that's where we're gonna end the podcast there. So let me ask you to talk to your partner for a minute, okay? And and I know we lost one person, so if you want to be a group of 3 over here, is that okay to be a group of 3? Okay. So I'd like one of you to say, have you ever been given meaningful options in a class, and talk about that? And after the first person goes, then the second person says, what new ideas did this podcast give you? So each take 2 minutes and see if you can each answer one of those questions, okay? And over here, maybe you can, one of you can do the first one, and then 2 of you can do this one twice, okay? Does that make sense? So one of you can answer, have you ever been given meaningful options? And then 2 of you will say what new ideas came up, okay? there scissors?
Yeah, I have to go because
Oh,
I have
no
another
problem.
classroom.
Okay. But
Okay.
dismiss them at noon, yes?
Yes, at 12:30. No, sorry, 11:45. It will
A
be
quarter to 12. Okay, okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
and It's a pleasure for us.
Oh, nice to meet you. And I don't know, do you want any of this stuff? I have all these extra things. Could you use them? I don't want to take them back with me, so.
Okay,
You can have the whole bag. Take the whole, if you want. Is that okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pilar. Yeah.
A taxi for go to the hotel or things like
Yes, the car's coming. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's all right.
Yes. Perfect. No,
Okay.
perfecto. Oh, am I allowed to hear? No? Oh, no. Okay. So is it about this, though? Are there ever times where there's meaningful options? Can you tell me? Does this teacher, does she give different choices of assignments, or he give different choices? No choice. Most college, everybody does one thing, right? So that's why I want to challenge you to think about how could you add one more thing, okay? So if you would, I know we only have like 10 minutes left. I promise that we'll get out on time, okay? So take the sticky notes again. Where is there an opportunity where you could put different choices for students so that there's two different things students could do, or it's tiered, and there's easy and medium and hard levels in this class. Does that make sense? Okay, so take a minute to think about where you could add a choice in that lesson, where students have a choice. And is it okay to ask, well, if you're doing that? My students will sometimes disagree with that idea. I'm wondering if any of you think they disagree, that they think, at least in our class, that the students would always choose the easiest thing, that the students might not challenge themselves. Do you feel like that's an issue for you in here? Yeah. So it's something to think about, how you set up your classroom, right? And if this choice is available. Okay, so you have now, you have added reflection to this original class. You have added, you have changed the order possibly of some of the activities, and you may have added more options, all to make the class more successful. So very quickly, let me tell you, right, ta-da, you have a new version of this class. And so you've switched up this lesson, right? Let me very quickly tell you why we did this, okay? So at Stanford, we use this strategy where there are these 5 pedagogical levers you can choose to, 6, I'm sorry, to choose to make the class different. So you can improve the learning culture by having students talk to one another more, or to have more structure. You can add more activities, which is what we just did today. You added new activities to make the class more engaging. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so to make it more engaging, you can also change the way you assess your students. You don't always have to give a pen and paper exam, right? My English students right now, I teach an English class, they're creating podcasts using design thinking. So they went out and they said, how should the university change after the pandemic? And they interviewed students and they're creating podcasts, and that's how they're being assessed, and they enjoy that. Right? You can change the space. So I don't leave desks like this usually. I push them together and you work in teams when you're in my class, right? We're always in teams. And you can change the assignments to have really cool artifacts. So if you start playing with these, you can boost student learning and you can boost student engagement in your class, which is what you just did, okay? And so you started by doing a journey map. Just to give you, I'm kind of summarizing what we did today. So you started by using a journey map to have students explain their experience. You could have your own students, I know you're doing mathematical mindsets in here, talk about their experience solving a problem. Where was it difficult for them? Where was it hard, right? And I have all of these strategies in here if you want, but this is an example of a student journey map, right? There's another one. This one talks about how they felt is different than how they thought they were doing, their confidence versus their emotions, okay? All right, so you are on the last 2 steps, okay? So I originally was told we had till noon, so I am cutting some stuff short. I'm gonna ask you and your partner to take a piece of this, and we can leave it together, but to put all your sticky notes of how you changed it and put your names on it, and I'm gonna show it to Dr. Morena for how we made changes. And then the second thing I would like you to do is to do, I used to think and now I think. So if you feel like you learned anything today, before this class, I used to think, and then another one, now I think. So 2 things, okay? Put your stickies on this poster, and then I used to think and now I think. And then we're finished, and you survived my class. You can probably end the film, because you can end. All done? See, yeah, okay, yes. Would you? Yeah, you can, there's no whiteboard marker in here, so just, I used to think, now I think, okay? Up here. And you'll post them up here for me, okay? I used to think, oops. So did we do anything in class that made you think differently today, right? Yes, please. And these sticky notes, will you put on this big poster? Thank you. And then I'll type them and send them to your teachers. But you can put that one all over here. Thank you. Thank you. So is this, I used to think, and now I think, is it both of them together?
No.
Or is it just the now I think?
Now I think.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
And now my son can have fun translating all these for me. Thank you. So when you've put your poster there and you've put your sticky notes up there, you're done for the day. So thank you. Thank you so much. And if you want any of these, feel free to take those too. And you can keep the notepad. You can keep the notepads. You can keep everything. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, the stickers for the class. Yes, yes. Thank you very much. You can keep all of it, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope this was okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope it was okay. Please take them all, because I don't want to take them home. If you can use them with your students, take 5 of them. Do you like more? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Would you like any of these? Okay. Thank you. Any more? Thank you so much. Thank you. Please take any of that, because I don't want to take it home with me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.